you can trust what he says. But before we dive into that, let's say hi to our online community, everyone watching on Instagram and YouTube, our South Pass family. What's up? Oh, come on, we can do better than that. Let's give a clap to them. Come on. We started Bible study, late August, right? And the plan was just for us to do like 4 weeks. And then we did another 4 weeks. And then before we knew it, we've been doing this for a while. But yeah, that's right. But I think it's really cool to see how we've committed a few hours during the week to get together, to learn about the scriptures, and to leave this place different than how we came. So I want to bring up Pastor Joe, and he's going to give us some.
Wow, this is like a comfy couch. I feel like I'm Dr. Phil or Oprah right now, But I want to echo what Josue said. There's something about when you just start something new. There's something about creating space to see who shows up. It's one thing to tell people this is what they need. It's another thing for people to say, this is what we're learning. This is what we're gleaning. This is what we're receiving. And one of my favorite things has been just seeing so many of you who were here at week 1 somewhere around August. You said August, and I said yes, and I have no clue. It could have been February. It could have been August. But what I do know is that there's a good crew of you that have been coming every week, and that tells me that you're hungry for whatever God has for you. And that's the thing. There's going to be seasons in your life and in my life where we're going to be so vibrant. You're going to be so alive. It's going to be obvious how good God is, and his fingerprints are going to be on everything. And it's so easy when you're in those seasons to make healthy choices. But there's also going to be moments in your life when the floor is going to fall from under you, when you're not going to want to open up the scriptures. You're not going to want to be at church. That's actually the marker for how you're doing spiritually. And I just love the fact that this room is filled with people who maybe are doing awesome and filled with people who are ready for the awesome. But what unites us is the hunger and the commitment to do the faithful things. Are you with me? Yeah. And one of the more faithful things you'll ever be able to do is just create space to open up the scriptures, to open up your life, to let other people speak into you, and see what happens. And tonight, I'm really excited because we get a gift of having somebody who has a lot to say. And not just because they talk a lot, although they do. Not just because there's somebody who, I'm just excited because this is somebody who's one of my best friends on the entire planet. And you're going to get gold from him tonight that I've had the benefit and pleasure of getting for the last decade. Because he's somebody who hasn't just talked about it, but he's somebody who's lived it. And he's somebody who's done a bunch of things. You don't even know this. He was on our pastoral team here at Mosaic, was leading a campus, him and his wife. I'm doing like secret, I'm not saying the name, is who is it, right? But he and his wife spearheaded one of our campuses. And there's still some of our most incredible people who are part of Mosaic today are people that they invested in years ago. And they're not going to tell you that, but the fingerprints of their leadership has been felt in so many ways. And so first, I just want to say, Tess and Eric Roy, we love you. We're so grateful for you. I'm so glad that when I said don't get married, you ignored me. When I said this is a terrible idea, you don't even know her. You never, you're in love, you're in lust. And I'm so glad that you ignored every ounce of counsel that I gave you because you are two of the greatest gifts that we have in our community. And so in a second, Eric's going to come up and he's going to talk about what he has learned about budgeting and is going to give you some tools and resources that tonight, anybody love practical? Raise your hand. If you're like, I love practical. If you don't practical, you can just leave now. I'm kidding, but if you don't love practical, tangible, this could be a great place to start. Because a huge aspect of why we wanted to do this for the 3 weeks, right? Take time to dive into the scriptures, see what the scriptures say about a biblical framework of finances. A huge reason we wanted to have these conversations wasn't just to let the scriptures inspire us, although it will. Wasn't just to see what the scriptures say about finances and money, although it will. But it was really to create space for us to talk about practical steps that we can do to get better in areas of our life that will affect every arena of our life. Have you noticed when your money's not doing well, it's indicative of your life not doing well? Anybody else? You know, a lot of times when you're broke in your finances, your soul is a little bit broke, right? Because everything in life is interconnected. And don't be surprised if you haven't taken the time to invest in the health of your finances, that the health of your relationships begin to take a hit. Because scriptures teach us that everything is connected. And so one reason we wanted to take time to help you and to bring people who are experts in this field, who are people who have lived it and experienced the highs and lows, is so that they can take the gifts that God has given them. They can take the insights. And if you'll apply them to your life, I'm telling you, your life will begin to get in order. Eric's going to give you some tools and resources tonight that if you will just apply it to your life, I'm telling you, it will make your life better. And so let's just make a commitment up front that we're just going to treat the expert as the expert, okay? And if he gives a recommendation, if he gives a counsel, if he gives a suggestion, assume by chance the reason God brought him here was because he wanted to say something to you through Eric. And if I have a sense that if you knew that God wanted to say something to you through a person, you would lean in a little bit closer. So I want us to do that tonight. Are you down to do that with me? Yeah. Okay, we'll get there. 50%, all right? I want to read one passage, and then I'm going to invite Eric to come up. Just because every week we want to have a moment. Oh, actually, I'm going to do two things. Ashton, can you throw up? Has it not been awesome having Pastor David Arcos here the last couple weeks? So good. He sends his love. He is, and we're actually going to, Josue, can we pray for him at the end? He was supposed to be here back and finishing up tonight, but his family in Texas is just going through some hard times, and his dad's sick, and they're in the middle of moving the entire house that he grew up in. And so he stayed a little bit extra to help his parents, because that's who David Arcos is. David Arcos is a hero who's always serving. And so I've loved that he's been leading this. And so let's throw up the money script that I know David's been leading every week. So I want us just to go over these again. So here are the 4 money scripts. First one, and if this is your money script, if you're going to be honest, let's just have some fun. Like, make some noise. Ooh, that's if one of these is yours. Okay, number 1, I love money. Money is life. Y'all, why y'all lying? Who's lying? Come on in. There we go. Come on. All right. So, okay, that's one script. Number 2, I hate money. Money is evil. Okay, yeah. All right. Thank you, Robbie, for being honest. Sorry for putting you on blast. Number 3, I save money. Money is scarce. Woo! Yeah. Okay. And then number 4, the angels in the room. I use money. Money is opportunity. Wow. Okay. Come on now. I don't know if that was aspirational or honest, but I love it. But I love the framework of these scripts. And maybe you're here for the first time and these are kind of new to you. These are just really starting points that you can be honest about your relationship to money, where you're at, and then be able to look. The goal and the aspiration is number 4, right? Is to have a proper understanding. And when we look at the scriptures show over and over and over again, God is not afraid of money. God does not hoard money. God does not want us to hoard it. He actually wants us to have a proper understanding so that we could utilize it properly, so that impact can extend, so that influence can be experienced, so that freedom is found. And if God wants us to use all the natural resources in the world to advance humanity forward, why would he not want the same with money? Why are we not the same with our finances? And so a lot of times it just needs to be a reframing in our brain, because God is not afraid of money, nor should we be. So maybe this week, especially if these are new to you, just begin processing that and go, where am I in the scheme of my money script? And here's a passage that I want us to read together. In your notes, you can write this down, meditate on it this week. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 22. And we'll have it on the screen here. Leviticus 23, verse 22. Here's what it says. When you reap the harvest of your land, don't reap the corners of your field or gather the gleanings. Leave them for the poor and the foreigners. I am God, your God. Now, there's so many different places we could go with this. But really, I just wanted to use this passage as a framework for our conversation today, because it's all about a posture. It's all about an understanding. One, that, first of all, everything belongs to God. So I love when he says, I am God, and then specifically, I'm your God. And I want you to trust me in that. And I want you to operate the same way that I do. And I love this framework that he gives. Because you remember, this is in a time of farmers. This is in a context of harvesting and planting and sowing. And he said, every time you go, and the harvest time has come, when all the hard work, all the seeds you planted, all the soil that you tilled, all the work that you put in, and now finally it all leads up to when you can have the harvest, when you get to reap the benefit. He said, here's what I want you to do. Don't touch the edges. Don't touch them. And I love it because this isn't specifically about a tenth, a tithe. He teaches about that. And there's other passages where it says, like, take a tenth and put it in the storehouse. Take a tenth and bring it to the temple. Like, all these things. That's not what this is. This is, I don't want you to touch the edges of the field. Because for me, when I hear this and I read this, what he's communicating is, I want you to live a life of intention. I want you to see everything, that there's order, that there's systems, that there's certain things in our stewardship we're just not supposed to touch. And in another word that we're going to talk about today, it's called a budget. And I think a lot of us, we don't know how to win the battle because we haven't first figured out what are the things that we need to leave untouched. What are the things that we just need to say, God, this belongs to you, and I'm going to be a steward of it. I'm going to leave it in its proper context. And I'm so excited for the conversation we get to have tonight, because I think it could unlock a lot of freedom for a lot of us here tonight. So without further ado, can you guys show some love and welcome my brother, mi hermano, the genius, Mr. Eric Roy. My guy.
I don't know how you follow that.
You teach.
First, I want to say I love you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you, everyone, for having me here tonight. And can you imagine being the friend that was chosen to tell two people not to get married? So thank you for always being a voice of wisdom and just so real, painfully, brutally real. And I love you so much, and you're a gift to our incredible entire community. So love you. Thank you.
Come on.
All right, we're going to talk about finances. I think like the first thing that I wanted to kick off with, that I believe, is that your finances, my finances, like, I come from a place of belief that none of it is ours, right? So everything that I'm going to share today, it's from this framework that, like, God has trusted us with this, with our finances, and it's not even ours to begin with. I think that's what's so beautiful about giving and tithing, is that it's an opportunity for us to reflect that. And my wife, Tess, and I, we take time at the beginning of every single year to not only set aside money so that we can tithe, but so that we can give above and beyond that. And I think generosity starts at 10.001%. It doesn't start from 0 to 10%. So I just there's a difference there. Where do you want to start? You want to start like a little Q&A? You want to like...
Yeah.
All right.
So, and by the way, at the end, so as we're going, Eric's going to teach some stuff. He's going to lead some stuff. But if there's questions that you have, I want to be very specific. If there's questions you have about Revelation, not tonight. Okay? I love Eric's. He's also a theologian, but let's...
I'm not.
But let's try to focus if you have questions about, like, again, a biblical framework around money or things that he's sharing or about budgeting. But if there are questions at the end, we could, have time to open it up. And then Eric can answer any questions that you guys might have. So be writing those things down. But first, why don't we start with why do you love this conversation so much? Because you get giddy whenever even the idea of this, you can see, can you see it in his eyes right now? Right? What is it about money, finances, budgeting? What is it that brings you joy? Why do you love this so much?
Everyone experiences it in one way or another. And like, whether you like it or not. And the reason why I was one of two voices at the beginning where, money, I love money, money is life. I'm like, yeah, money is life, right? It powers and it fuels the world that we live in, and stuff doesn't happen without it. And so I think that's one reason. The second reason is I was a mathematical economics major in college. So I love numbers. I love economies. I absolutely love seeing policies that are enacted and trying to understand, how are we shaping economic policy that's going to change human behavior? To me, all of that's really fascinating. And if you don't know about economics, economics is more than just supply and demand. Economics is about fueling and shaping policy that moves governments and ultimately powers and fuels our world. And so to me, I think that's really fascinating. I think generating wealth is fascinating. I think that when you see people who squander wealth, we were talking about this in the back, celebrities, you hear about it all the time. It's Lindsay Lohan's out of money again. But
dang, Lindsay, shots fired. Yeah.
I know, I'm sorry if you're watching. We love you. Come to church. But also that genuinely fascinates me. Yeah.
Yeah. And what have you learned about yourself when it comes to the way that you see money, the way that you generate wealth, the way that's a focus for your family and how to build generational wealth? What have you learned about yourself in the midst of all that?
I think a few things. And sorry, not to go backwards. The last thing that I love about finances, and the reason why I'm really passionate about budgeting, is because I've actually been able to witness firsthand people get out of 6 figures in debt. And someone that I worked with, a couple that I worked with, were in 6 figures in debt, and then I worked with them, and I think 2 years later they bought a house in LA. And there was make no mistake about it, there were definitely windfalls in terms of how they were generating their income. But the way that and I think the relationship that they had with their finances changed, which I think contributed to the success that they were able to have financially. So I think transformation just in my personal life, at work, professionally, is something that I care a lot about, and seeing individuals experience transformation is huge. And I think that money also has the power to transform. It can transform you into something terrible, and it can control and it can own you, or it can transform you for the better. And I think that leads a little bit into the second question, which is my own personal transformation. I started coming to Mosaic 11 years ago, 12 years ago. I came because someone told me, they were like, hey, we're doing this thing, and we're going to look at your Myers-Briggs and your StrengthsFinder, and you're going to sell more deals. At the time, I was a commercial real estate broker. And I was like, yes, I only care about selling deals and making more money. And that was my singular focus in life. And then I met a girl.
And then I was about to say, and then what happened?
And then I met Tess.
At that event, right?
At that event. At that event.
Same table.
No, she was across the room.
Oh, she was across the room.
Yeah, I kept making eyes and catching her. It was oh my gosh, who is this? She had purple hair. You laugh, but this boy from Orange County was like, whoa, you can do that? That's allowed? And so, I started coming to church, and I was not giving. And at that point in my life, I had one singular goal. And I would even tell people this. And I would say, I've got one goal in life, and it's to make as much money as humanly possible. And we were sitting in church one day, and Tess called me out. And I don't even know, we were talking about this the other day. I don't think you remember it, but she said, hey, you're like a really greedy person. Like, you're not generous at all. And if we're going to be together, like, that has to change. And that was a moment in time, I think, that was like pretty pivotal for me. Kind of looking introspective, it was like, okay, hey, why am I so focused on just this one metric and letting that define who I am? So it's definitely been a journey, and something that I'm now passionate about is generosity. And I helped a fintech company go public that was like purely focused on generosity. It was absolutely insane. The decision didn't make sense. I left this career in commercial real estate to help this company go public, and my Korean mother was like, what have you done? What are you doing? But I'm just the co-founder of that company. When they were recruiting me, he said, like, you've got an opportunity to lay a foundation of generosity that will survive your lifetime. And like, that's impact. Like, making as much money as humanly possible is not impact. But like, being a part of a foundational generosity movement, I think is. And so, when you ask me, like, why am I passionate about money? Like, that's, I think, at the core of it.
So good. Beautiful. And so before you jump in, maybe one last thing. What'd you tell people, like, what are you doing now? So you had transitioned from commercial real estate and then helped out a fintech company. And then, so what are you doing now?
Yeah. Is there anyone in this room that's in tech? 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. Oh, 4. Awesome. Cool. I'm in tech. I'm in enterprise cloud content management.
Say that 3 times fast.
Which is, I work for a company called Box, and I lead our public sector business in the Western United States. So I've got a team of 9 that really it's our job to help improve the lives of end citizens. So again, really mission oriented, and it's quite a bit of fun. And I don't know how much more I can dive into that. I mean, I can dive into it, but I don't know if it's...
You're a swimmer. You dive as far as you want. I'm here. Lead us, Eric Roy.
Yeah, we sell the cloud to states and local governments, so cities and counties. If you're applying for benefits in LA County and you're applying for social services and you have to upload a document, you're actually uploading a document onto our back end. If you are incarcerated, which hopefully no one in this room is, and you have someone, a public defender is appointed to you if you don't have the funds to pay for your own attorney, we actually are powering the Los Angeles Public Defender's Office, and we're actually helping them reduce the incarceration rate of folks that are seeking mental health diversion. So we have like some really impactful use cases within our space, within the public sector, that are a lot of fun. And then like before public sector, we were selling deals to like Warner Media and HBO. So like the back end of HBO Max is our platform. It's a lot of fun, but the missional stuff is cooler to talk about.
Yeah. What don't you do? Beat me in basketball. That's about the only thing.
Yeah, 100%. No, I cannot ball. I'm 6'4". I cannot ball at all. Okay.
Yeah, I just had to throw that in there. Yeah. Okay, why don't we jump in? I think people are hungry for content and meat, and that's what I love. One of my favorite things about you is you know how to be very practical, but you also know how to make practical things entertaining and enjoyable. Because that's what you do for life. And so, why don't you take us wherever you feel like is important and that you could give us some handlebars.
Okay.
And leave here different.
Okay, cool. Yes, so we're going to be incredibly hands-on, very tactile. I'm like, I don't like meetings longer than 25 minutes. And the last 5 minutes of the meeting better be some takeaways, because if we don't have takeaways, then what on earth are we here for? Every meeting has an agenda. So I'm structured. I sent you a picture of my calendar.
Yes.
Joe was like, hey, can we find some time to talk? I was like, yeah, here. I think it was 16 30-minute meetings from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. And there was one slot in the middle.
I said, I'll take the 3 p.m.
Yeah. So, yes, we're going to dive in. We're going to be incredibly tactile. Can we blow up my slides on the screen? Here we go. All right. And yes, okay, Tess, I told you. My wife is a creative, and she did not make these slides. All right. So we're going to talk about creating a budget. Even that is so tactile. I was like, what are we talking about? Creating a budget. Okay. All right. Some things to keep in mind about budgeting. What are budgets here for? And I feel like the people in this room today, you're the brave ones. You're the brave ones who are here and ready to address this issue, this idea. Budgeting isn't the most fun. Even I don't like a budget, because I think there's a connotation with budgets that it offers constraints and boundaries, and it tells you what you can and can't do. My challenge to everyone in this room tonight is, and not in this room if you're online, what's up, is to look at your budget as an opportunity to free yourself. And if you look at your budget as an opportunity where you're giving yourself permission to spend monies in these predefined areas, you're actually creating buckets of freedom all across your life. And it's a very freeing experience. And while it's not fun to dig into how much money you do or you don't have, where your money is, or it's not going where you wish it was going, where it's not, what is really gratifying is when you've finalized your budget and you're like, oh, I have a plan. I have a plan to achieve whatever financial goal I have in front of me. So a good budget addresses your goals. You got to start with the goal. So what's your goal? Are you in $150,000 in credit card debt and you want to get out of credit card debt within the next year? And you laugh, but that's real. Do you have $250,000 of student loans because you decide that you want to be a vet or a doctor, or you didn't have someone that was a part of that resonated. And you didn't have someone, a part of your life that was funding your education, and that was the only way that you could go and pursue your dreams, and so you took down student loan debt, but now that's hanging over your life. Are you in a position where you're trying to create generational wealth? Maybe you're very fortunate and you are, you're net positive in this game called life. You don't have any, and I'll touch on this in a second, but you don't have any bad debt. Maybe you have great debt. Maybe your debt's working for you and you have different financial goals, right? But a budget is supposed to address whatever goals you have set out. So if you don't have financial goals, I would recommend making probably just one financial goal. And
what would be an example of a great financial goal? A basic.
I think those are a few. So if you're in debt, getting out of debt, but put a time limit on it, and probably put a realistic time limit on it. So if you're in $150,000 of debt and you're making $40,000 a year, you're probably not going to get out of debt within a year. But if you've got a 5-year plan to get out of debt and wind down your expenses, change your lifestyle, because that's ultimately what you'll need to do, I think you need to put a time limit on it.
That's great.
Cool. And I'm not just talking about debt. You could not be in debt. So I think another financial goal is, and Tess and I I'll just share this right now, but it's we want to purchase an investment property. And so that's something that we are working towards. So that's another example of a financial goal. We want to be able to put our kids through school. And when I say school, I don't mean just college, but private school in LA is really expensive. It costs more than both of our college educations, right? But we want to be able to give our kids that type of experience. And so those are ideas or just kind of general goals there. Your budget's got to motivate you, because if at the end of the day you hate your budget, you're just not going to use it. And if you don't use it, you're going to be right back in the situation that you're in currently, whether you are in debt or if you're not saving or if you're not investing, wherever you're at today. If you don't like your budget, you're not going to use it tomorrow. So it's got to be something that lets you have a little bit of fun in the areas in which you experience fun. A good budget is fluid. All right, so I'm in sales, and all the time people will tell my team, they're we just don't have this in the budget. And the best response to that. If anyone's in sales is like, oh my gosh, I love that. Budgets are fluid, right? And so you prioritize what you care about in life, and you prioritize what you care about with your budgets as well. So a good budget being fluid means, what was it, like 8 years ago, I walked up to my beautiful wife and I was like, hey babe, the boys have started surfing. I'm going to start surfing. Can I go buy a surfboard? She's like, how much is a surfboard? I'm like $800. And she was like, no, you can't. And I was like, but like, hey, what if I take some of the money out of where I'm spending eating out? What if I take some of the money out of where I'm spending on entertainment? And then what if, I save and we put that money into this other bucket for a surfboard? Like, then that becomes attainable. And so you prioritize what you care about. If you really care about like the car that you drive, and you don't care about owning a home, like maybe you spend more on your car payment than your mortgage. Wouldn't advise for that, but like a good budget is fluid, and it gives you the flexibility to move and change as your life changes, because like what you're into today may not be what you're into tomorrow. And again, like if your life is so rigid, your budget's going to feel like a prison. But if it kind of is nice and open, it gives you the freedom to move. If you're coupled up, a budget is adopted by both parties. Wow, you were that person, Tess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every Sunday at 9:45 a.m.
Yeah, your 8:20 p.m. alarm. Okay. A good budget. So if you're coupled up, a good budget is adopted by both parties. This doesn't work if I create a budget and I don't follow it and only Tess is following it, right? So if you're in a relationship, if you're in this room, if you're online and you're in a relationship, like the budget has to work for both of you. And I think like there's a biblical principle called cleaving, and I don't know, you can get into that. But really like what Tess and I believed in, I think, what we believe in this community is that when you get married to someone, like you become one. And becoming one doesn't mean like one in everything except for finances. And how many years into marriage were we still Venmoing each other? It's like 2 or 3. Okay. Yeah. So we did get dialed in pretty quickly, but like we had separate bank accounts for a year. And it was weird. It was not fun. It was like very odd. So yeah, make sure your budget has flexibility for both parties. And then I'm going to end with some budget examples. I've got an example if you're single, if you're married, if you have kids. So there's like different things that I'm going to give you as resources here. And then again, a good budget, it removes guilt. I kind of already hit on this point, but like the goal here is not to like self-shame. The goal here is not to make yourself feel bad about spending these resources. The goal is to give yourself a budget that aligns to those goals. Do you have questions?
It's great. No.
All right, cool. All right.
You with us? Okay, awesome.
Well, if you're not, you're about to be. Strap in. So get your phones out. This is a 100% participation kind of exercise. This is a QR code. Scan that. It's going to bring you to a survey. And what we're going to do here is we are going to...
Anonymous survey, right?
This is a fully... let me just... Quick disclaimer. Thank you. Yeah. This is a fully anonymous survey that that I have built here. It's 7 questions. We don't really walk around. Does anyone remember that? Was it Art Babel? I'm not cool enough.
Art
what was
Basel?
the thing? Art Basel. Thank you. Art Babel.
Your wife is the creator, obviously.
I live in my office. So Art Basel, was it 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they had like that ATM, and you could like put a card in there. Diplo did it, and it was like, oh, you have $97,000 in your bank account, and like then they had like a leaderboard. I felt like it would be really cool if they did that, but like for debt, because we talk about like how much money we have in our bank accounts, but we don't really talk about like how much debt we have. And I'd be shocked if there was like a person in here that didn't have like bad debt at the moment. And bad debt is debt that's like not working for you. You can take down debt, purchase an investment property, and it's cash flowing. And if it's cash flowing positive, like that's good debt for you. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Or you could have bad debt where you're buying depreciating assets, consumable assets, and you're paying interest on those assets that like a lot of times you've already donated that to like Goodwill, or you're trying to sell it on, I don't know, whatever that app is. So the idea here is want to get an idea, again, fully anonymous, of like what this room looks like from kind of like a financial perspective, because I think we're a lot closer to each other than we may realize. Yeah. So again, this is completely anonymous. I don't know the results. No one knows the results. There's 7 questions. So the first question, can you see the question? Yeah. Yes. Okay, good. So it's working. All right. Funny story. I was going to use Slido, but it was $217, and it's not in the budget, so I didn't. I found a free version instead. I almost did it. And then the look on Tessa's face when I told her how much it was, she was like, "Don't do it." I was like, "All right." All right. So, is your primary source of earned income sporadic or consistent? The key word here is earned income. That's why it's in all caps. Earned income is different than passive income. There's like 7 different income types. We're going to talk about 3 of them tonight. But earned income is, hey, you know, I go to work, I go to a job. And again, being in Hollywood, I would expect that like there's probably a decent amount of folks in here that have inconsistent or sporadic income. Maybe you are just on a salary. It's like, hey, I work 40 hours a week. No matter what, I get paid, you know, $90K a year. Maybe you get overtime, but like you're not necessarily job or commission based. So those are the 2 differences there. Everyone good? Yep. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question in 3, 2, 1. All right, question number 2. Ooh, wow, are they really asking that? Yes. All right. What is your current annual income across all of your income sources? So this includes if you own rental properties, rental income. If you have a business and there's income from that. If you own stocks and they're paying out dividends. If you are just focused on your salary. If you are in this room and you are married, or if you share finances with someone else, you can answer this as both.
And if you're in this room and if you make $1 billion or above, just come and talk to me afterwards.
Go to mosaic.org/give. All right, everyone good? All right, cool. Question number 3. How many income streams do you have? 1, 2 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 or more. So if you've, let's say, earned income and you have investment income, let's say you have multiple different businesses. So it's like, hey, you know, I've got 2 or 3 businesses plus a earned income from like, you know, a normal or regular job. That's what this question is trying to drive towards. Everyone ready? Cool. All right. Next question. Oh, are you giving to church currently? Yes or no?
Be honest.
Okay, question number 5. Do you currently hold any bad debt? And again, we talked about bad debt here a couple minutes ago, but debt that does not generate you any income. Yes or no? Okay, ready? Yeah? You with me? All right, cool. Next one. Are you currently saving or investing your earned income? So what I mean by that is you get a paycheck. Are you squirreling that away in a savings account? Or are you investing that back into projects, investments, stocks, Bitcoin? Bitcoin just hit 100K. I know. And I told someone like 2 days ago not to buy. I was like, oh, wait for the dip. I'm not a financial advisor. Okay, question number 7. Do you currently have and follow a set budget? Yes or no? All right. And we're done. Cool. All right, so we're going to look at some of these results. And like the spreadsheet's really ugly, so I mean, I could throw this up. You want to look at this?
Yeah,
raw data? Okay, cool. Just to prove it's anonymous. Yeah, here we go. See, this is like bad. All right. You know what's interesting is I can't see that. Yeah, it's okay. All right. How are we doing? Are we all sick yet?
There it is.
Okay, cool. So sporadic and consistent. So in this room, we're split pretty much in half. So half are sporadic, half are consistent. This really actually helps me, thank you, because I'm going to spend time focusing on, I was at 1099 for the first 7 years of my career, and like I didn't make money for 6 months. So it's like, how do you budget if you don't make money for 6 months and then all of a sudden like you get a paycheck? And I think half of us in this room probably have that dilemma. So we're going to chat through that tonight. Current income source. So 41% of this room is 0 to 50K. 30% of the room is 51 to 100. Let's see, 22% of the room is 100 to 200. And then we have 3 folks in here that are between 201 to 350. Okay, income streams. Most of us have around less than 4 income streams. The average millionaire has around 7+ income streams. And so if you're looking to generate wealth, the goal is how many more income streams can I set up? If you work for someone, there's only so much money you'll ever be able to make, right? Because you see those guys on TikTok and they're like, hey, nice car, what do you do? It's like, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, everyone's an entrepreneur. All right. Are you giving to church currently? Well, this is awesome. 84% of this room is given to church. So way to go. That's beautiful. And then do you currently have any bad debt? Like, there are around 90 people in this room. I just want to point out that like 60% of the people in this room are holding on to bad debt. So the majority of this room has bad debt. So if you have bad debt, if you have student loans, if you have debt that is not actively generating you income, like you're not alone. And there are other people that are also fighting that same exact battle as you. Are you currently saving or investing your earned income? 70% said yes. That's awesome. That is really, really incredible, and you should be really proud of yourselves. And then do you currently have and follow a set budget? All right, this is great. My
favorite part is seeing the 30-person drop from 89 to 59. That's why we're here.
I'm not even going to answer that. Okay, all right. Okay, cool. All right, bear with me while we go back and do some gymnastics here. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk about the difference between income and expenses. This seems self-explanatory, but the number of conversations that I have with folks as I build out their budgets, and I just do this on the side for fun, is like help people build budgets. The number of people who don't like grasp this concept, I think, led me to actually putting this in here. If your income is less than your expenses, like that equals debt. And if your income is more than your expenses, like that equals like an opportunity to have savings. And so the entire goal of your budget is to get to a place where you're at least at neutral, if not generating savings. All right, what are some of the most important different types of income? There's 3 that I'm going to talk about today, but I think there's I said 7 or 9 different types of active income. First one is active. So what's active income? The first and most obvious is you have a job, you get paid to do that job. And so, every 2 weeks, once a month, whenever you complete a job, you get paid. That's active employment income. The next is family contributions. And so you may have moved to Hollywood to become an actor, an actress, a makeup artist, a producer, a director, a singer, a songwriter. And you have family who is also believing in your dream, and they've said, hey, I'm going to fund you for, the next 6 months while you get on your feet and go pursue your dream. So that's a version of active income, and that's specifically here for the Hollywood crowd. Another form of active income is gifts. So if someone gifts you money, hey, grandma, Merry Christmas, thanks so much for the envelope. Love what it says, but love even more the money that falls out, right? Like that's another version of active income. Then there's investment income. Half of the way that I'm paid is by stock. Don't look at our stock price. Now that I said that, you're all going to do that. It's a bad day. But maybe you're compensated by stocks. So if you sell stocks, if you sell bonds, but that's an example of investment income. And then passive income. Passive income's a little different than investment income. Passive income is generated from the assets that you own. So when I look at passive income, what I mean by that is, what are the income sources that you have built in your life that are paying you on a regular or semi-regular basis? And that's where purchasing an asset becomes really valuable. Maybe you have a friend who's a writer and they have a movie that they just absolutely know is going to be incredible. And so you invest in a film and you invest in that script. And then that script takes off and you start generating and getting paid dividends on that. Maybe you were on a show, you start getting residuals. Like that's more of like that passive income because you're paid for the work that you did, but then those residual checks just come in and that you're not really doing anything for that, right? And so the goal in life and the way this whole game is made up is how do you move from active income to passive income? And when you have multiple sources of passive income working for you, has anyone in here heard the phrase of like, get your money to work for you? That's what that means. And that's like the end goal. So this isn't like some crazy game. This isn't rocket science. It's how do you move from active income to passive income? Plot twist, you're not going to move to passive income if you are spending more than you are earning, because you will never have an opportunity to save and invest, right? So that's why we budget. A couple different types of expenses. People oftentimes are like, whoa, there's different kinds of expenses? Yes, there are. Okay, fixed expenses. Your fixed expenses don't change, right? So a great example of a fixed expense is your rent. Your rent may go up. You may have rent control so it doesn't go up very much. But for the most part, in a 12-month time span, your rent or your mortgage is pretty fixed. Car payment, pretty fixed, right? If you don't own your car outright, so if you're either leasing your car or if you are, if you have like a car payment, if you own your car, you're making car payments on that. That's an example of like a fixed amount. You know, your insurance premium to drive your car. That's an example of a fixed amount. And then like membership fees or association fees. If you're a part of a country club, if you're a part of a gym, you go to Equinox, you pay $100 a year for the Erewhon Hot Bar membership. Like they got me. You know,
no one is surprised by that. You look like an
well,
Air
I did the
One
math. No. Here's what I'll say. I did the math. And based on how much we spent at Erewhon in the last year, we would have actually saved like nearly $1,000. So, you know, do the math. If it makes sense, then go for it. And if it's in your budget, go for it. All right. Another kind of expense is savings. And we don't oftentimes think of savings as an expense, but it is. It costs you something. Like the money's not coming in. So if it's not income, what is it? It's an expense. These are kind of like irregular expenses that you have to save for. Like tires on your car is a great one because you may be looking at your budget on a month-by-month basis and you're like, okay, but what about in August? Every 2 years or every 3 years when I have to buy tires for my car and I'm walking out of there and it's $1,000, like how do I budget for that? You have to budget for it on a consistent basis in the months leading up to that expense. And if you don't, then you find yourself in a like, oh no situation, right? So there are, anyone in here own a dog? Yeah, you said, I guess. We don't like our dog. We have a dog. Don't worry about it. He was well loved. He's 12 years old. We're waiting. About a year ago, am I not allowed to say that? Okay, all right. Well, I'm sorry. It is what it is. Anyone want a Jack Russell Terrier? Okay, so I mean, you know.
Of course,
he's
we
bad.
all know.
Can you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We
Vouch for me here because I feel like I just lost them.
we love Eddie. Yeah.
He's all right. Okay. So what was it? 8 months ago, they had to clean his teeth. It was like $1,400, right? But in the 10 years that we've owned him, we haven't cleaned his teeth. That's probably why it was $1,400. But like, how are you budgeting in that time frame ahead of that really large expense? And that's like a savings expense.
Are you going to get in it? That's a great point, because how do you, on a practical level, how do you prepare for those unexpected, like how do you not get buried under the weight of the unexpected? How do you prepare for that? How do you prepare the $1,400 grills that your dog needs?
Yes. I wish it was a grill. That would be so sick. You said grill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they took his teeth out. I was like, I could have done that. Okay, sorry.
But yeah, just like what's the best way to prepare for those big unexpected expenses?
Yeah, the answer varies based off of like whether you're variable or if you have a consistent income. If you have a consistent income, the best way to budget for that is to anticipate when those expenses happen by looking into the past and understanding the frequency in which they've happened historically. And looking back about a year on your finances is a pretty good barometer of like what kind of expenses you're going to incur.
Great.
And then at that point, you just divide by 12 and you start saving that money and you put that money aside. So if you're consistent income, it's really easy. If you're a sporadic income, so if you're the other half of this room that you kind of just get paid when you get paid and you get paid by job and it's a little bit more sporadic, when you do get paid, you have the unfortunate responsibility of having to save so much more. And just a quick budgeting tip, if you're in here and you're like, oh, I'm going to ask him at the very end, like, how do I budget if I have inconsistent income? The answer is you look at the last 2 years of your life, and you look at the month where you made the least amount of money and you budget off of that. And it's not fun. Like, I'm just going to tell you it's not fun. But if you have inconsistent income, one of the benefits to your work is that your pay is directly related to the effort that you put in. Typically, and this is, if you have consistent income and you have a salary, like that's something, the stability there is definitely something to celebrate. But if you're one of these very weird, special people who has inconsistent income, and I'm wired this way, I think you're wired this way, I'm pointing at my wife, Tess, the opportunity to earn far exceeds a typical salaried employee, but it takes someone different to be open to the ups and downs of that type of an income. So when you do get paid, you can't go have fun. I'm going to say that again. Like when you get paid, like you can't go have fun.
One more time.
You can't have fun until you have about a year's worth of living expenses saved up.
That's good.
And a lot of people will say like around 6 months. You need a year. You need a year of expenses. You need a year of expenses saved up if you are if you're a variable income or a sporadic income individual.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Great.
And then variable, I mean, this is kind of pretty self-explanatory, but the changes in your variable expenses are within your control. You determine what those look like. That looks like the $7.50 latte that you get from Alfred every single day. That looks like...
Alfred? Why are you going to Alfred?
Because it's close to our house. Legitimately, like that's the only reason why. And then eating out, like personal shopping, all those different kinds of like categories for expenses. Make sense? Okay, cool. All right, these are budget templates. We're going to walk through them really quickly here. If you are a single earner, scan the one that says single. If you are coupled up, married, and share finances with someone else, scan the one on the right. Plot twist, it'll take you to Box because that's where these are hosted. Save these links. You can download these spreadsheets, and I'm going to walk you through now how to build a budget. So we've kind of built the foundation. Now we're going to show you the how. Sound good?
It's great.
Okay, cool. Okay. All right. If you're single, make some noise. We're definitely starting with single first. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, hold on. We have a question. Yes?
Oh, you didn't scan it? Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, should we do a singles mixer at the beginning of the year? It's a lot of woo.
That was a lot of woo.
It was.
Yeah. Okay. If you have not downloaded, make some noise. All right, we're moving on. Come find me after. Okay. So there are. How many of you are like in spreadsheets often? Okay. All right. Sweet. Cool. Nice. There are 3 tabs on the bottom of this spreadsheet that we're looking at. And so we've got budget, annual, and instructions. I don't know why. I've tried, for whatever reason, whenever I save this thing, it doesn't default to instructions. I'm sorry. Here are the instructions. Enter your monthly numbers in the annual tab. It's a little confusing, but put your monthly numbers in the annual tab. And then manually adjust the numbers in the budget tab once you've got that figured out here, okay? So on the annual tab, what we're looking at here, and this is, again, if you're a single individual, we've got at the top here your income. I'm going to go through these one by one and just explain what all of these are. But this is an idea of, hey, in the last year, so if you bank anywhere, and if you use digital payments anywhere, you can go online, you can download your spending for the last year. And my recommendation is to download that entire spreadsheet and then start categorizing every single one of your expenses into one of these expenses down here below. If you have regular expenses that aren't in here, you can change these around. But the number one question that I get asked when creating these budgets is, can we add more fields? And the answer is no, you can't. You can change what's in here. But if you do what's called micro budgeting, you end up making all these buckets that are so small, it's impossible to track. And if it's impossible to track, will you use it? No. Great. Awesome. Okay. So the goal here is to fill everything out on the annual tab. Once you've done that and you go into the budgeting tab, and bear with me here, what we will, oh, this is actually pretty large up here. Okay. This is the budgeting tab, and what this is a jumping off point based off of the monthly expenses, the monthly averages. Maybe you're not buying shampoo every single month because a bottle of shampoo lasts you for 3 months. So maybe some of your expenses are heavier in January and February. So like your gift giving budget is probably heavier in November and December around the holidays. If you have a significant other, maybe your couple's spending for gifts is higher around the month that they have a birthday. If you know that you have a really big expense for entertainment every single year, you're like, hey, I go really hard on travel in the summer. Maybe during those months, that bucket is bigger based off of your lifestyle, and that's what this sheet is supposed to do. But this sheet auto-populates. You see all the zeros in there? As you start to build this out, this sheet will auto-populate from this annual tab. So we're going to do this together. Actually, I've been talking a lot. How much time do we have?
Keep going.
Okay, cool.
You guys good? Yeah.
Okay.
We have like 15, 20 more minutes if you want to do Q&A at the end.
Cool.
If not, you can keep going.
Okay, cool. You're going to need Excel on a computer to do that. Yeah. Or on your phone. So you can open that on your phone. Okay, so this was a budget that I did for an individual back in 2019. And this is a very interesting budget because if we scroll out a little bit, you can see this is an individual who's making about $7,500 per month, about $90,000 per year. They're paying 30% in taxes, which is about in line with what they should be paying in taxes. They don't spend any money on their benefits, and they don't contribute to a 401k. So the net income, anyone in here want to take a stab at what the difference is between gross and net?
Net is everything that's been distributed after your initial after your initial payment before taxes.
Yes.
Again, like you said, 401k, or if they do pay anything with like Medicare or like Social Security, that's part of their payment towards taxes with, with their net income, and then gross income is like everything they make before taxes.
Yes, exactly. So if you couldn't hear that, if you're joining us from the cloud, net is everything that is minus all of your expenses. So gross income is just like that top line number. And then your net expenses is everything that's been netted out. That's why it's called net income. So the total net income, and this is the number that we care about. We've got about $5,200 per month that this person's working with, okay? Auto insurance, they're spending $350 per month on auto insurance. They're spending about $20 a month on renter's insurance or on home insurance. They have an umbrella policy, which is $30 a month, and then they're spending around $300 on Equinox every single month. They own their car outright, so they have no car payment. This person is not part of a church, but they did give like around 5% every single year, which is about $300 a month to different charities that they believed in and wanted to support. And then this person was living in a one-bedroom apartment in North Hollywood and paying about $2,500 in rent. They're not saving anything. In fact, what's interesting about this budget is as we look at this, they're not really spending money on gas or fuel. And I think this was a situation where someone was paying for the fuel for them. So there was no expense for gas or fuel.
Someone was paying fuel for them.
Yeah, like think of like a parent or someone who's like contributing to this individual's.
Your parents buy you fuel? Dang, I gotta talk to my
literally
dad.
Literally never. Actually, when I started dating Tess, I was driving to and from Orange County in LA, and my parents for my birthday gave me a gas gift card. Yes, that was the one time my parents paid for gas.
I have got a gas gift card for my parents. Actually,
Yeah, 100%.
It's amazing.
All right, so we live in LA, and I'm going to walk through what these different expenses are. So the first one is, what did I do? First one is gas and fuel. This is just gas for your car. So if you drive a car, you spend money on gas, you're trying to look at like the average. Now, if you take road trips in the spring, the amount that you're going to spend in the spring is going to be higher. But again, when we build this out, we're looking at a year's average of these expenses divided by 12. That make sense? Okay, cool. Service and parts and parking. These are car washes. These are, like, we live in LA. If you don't budget for parking tickets, you should. Like, you really, you should. Maintenance on your cars, brakes, like everything that we live in LA and we have cars and your cars are expensive, right? So that goes into service and parts. The question that you asked earlier, how do you budget for this? Again, we're looking for 12 months of spending across these categories. And in that 12 months, the likelihood that you'd had to like bring your car into the shop or that you had to buy tires or get brakes or something is there. And so we're trying to factor that in. Bills and utilities. So what are you spending on Spotify, on Apple Music, on Dropbox? I can't even believe I said on Box. Water, power, like recurring gifts. That's bills and utilities. Entertainment. So entertainment is everything outside of like travel and vacation. So if you and the boys go out for, drinks and a movie, or if you're going to Topgolf, or if you're seeing Wicked 2 nights in a row, which my wife and I did, it was awesome. Like that's what's there in entertainment on a monthly basis. If you are married and you have kids and you're in this room, or if you're online and you're like, okay, but what about babysitting? Where do I budget for babysitting? Because we have babies and it costs us money every single time we leave our house. If you are leaving to go do something that's entertainment related, then the babysitting goes into your entertainment budget. It doesn't go into your childcare budget because you're funding something that's entertainment related, not, hey, I have childcare so that I can get my job done. And there's a difference between the two. Business services. So this was an individual that I was helping who had acting classes. And so there was like, hey, I'm printing out my headshots and I have acting class. So if you're a singer or songwriter, like professional development, those kinds of like business services, that goes in this category. Restaurants on a monthly basis, $750. And I mean, I would highly recommend that. This was like 2019. I don't know if like Postmates was like really a thing yet, but like your Postmates and your Uber Eats, if you don't think that that counts as eating out, like it definitely does. So that goes into this budget. That is not your grocery budget. Your grocery budget is like, I'm going to cook some food. Your eating out budget is like, someone is going to cook that food for me, okay? Groceries, about $400 a month on groceries. Gifts on a monthly basis around $50. Maybe you go 2 months without buying gifts for others, but then the next 2 months you're spending $100 a month. Again, we're looking for the average in a 12-month span. That's where we get this number. Home improvement, cleaning products. Like what are you buying on Amazon? Like toilet cleaner and Pine Sol and paper towels and like all the stuff that I can't find at Target. And I'm like, Tess, where is it? All of that stuff is home improvement. If you're like me and you're handy and you go to Home Depot a lot and you're like, hey, I'm going to spruce up my spot. I'm going to buy, something to make this wall look a little bit better. I'm going to buy a painting at a flea market. Like all of that goes into home improvement. Personal care, and then there's personal health. So personal care is haircuts, hair products, anything that you like, gel manicures and getting your hair did, and all of that goes into personal care. Shopping is pretty self-explanatory, but this individual was also trying to be a recording artist. And so they spent a lot of money actually on electronics, on musical instruments, on clothes. If you're a gamer, it's like all the money that you're spending on all of that gaming stuff. Think we understand shopping. Travel. This is big trips. If you're getting on a train or a plane, or if you're driving more than 100 miles for more than 3 days, that goes into travel. Who here is like from LA? All right, a few of us. Everyone else, if you're traveling home for the holidays, you want to budget for that throughout the year so that when you go to buy that ticket to go see mom and dad, you're not breaking the bank. You're not like, hey, can you help me get home for Christmas? Gifts. This individual had a girlfriend, and so he was like, hey, in a year, we probably spend around $1,200 on gifts. That breaks down to about $100 per month. Personal health. So personal health is different than personal care. So if you need to go see the foot doctor, the eye doctor, the ear doctor, whatever doctor, personal health also includes your therapist, right? Because that is health related. Co-pays, medications, all of that. I implore everyone in here, if you do have stable income and you're a salaried employee, if you have either a health savings account or a flexible savings account, please invest in that, because everything that you purchase based off of whatever tax bracket you're in, it's like buying it with a 20, 30, 40, 50% discount. And Joe and I were joking about this, but I just used HSA money to buy those silly little like Normatec legs that...
Hey, there's nothing silly about those legs.
They're pretty great. Like they're really great. I have fallen asleep the last 2 nights in a row wearing those things.
Have you seen them? We both had the compression boots and the blow... Sorry, yeah, compression legs.
They're great.
They are incredible.
But they're HSA available. Mm-hmm. We had money left over in our HSA account. And the way an HSA, so a health savings account, or an FSA, a flexible spending account, the way those work is that it takes pre-taxed income It puts it on this card that the government says, we sponsor you buying stuff that is personal health related with your pre-tax dollars. So it's like getting a discount off of whatever it is that you're purchasing. If you are a regular spender on your personal health and you're purchasing items or you're spending on healthcare and you have an opportunity to allocate funds towards that, it is one of the biggest ways that you can put, 20% of $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 back into your budget. So please take advantage of that. And then miscellaneous expenses, it's like, I don't know, I bought a popsicle at Rite Aid because it was hot outside. Like, is that groceries? Like, no, just you can toss that into miscellaneous expenses. And what's fascinating is that this person's burning $2,100 a month, which is $25,000 per year. And
you're saying that over budget.
Over budget, yeah,
Yes.
it's burning. Yep. And so we can see that over here. So when you look at taxes, expensive, what we've done is we've taken, see this summary tab? This adds up. So for home, what are all your home expenses? You may be wondering hey, what are all my home expenses? It's your home insurance, it's your umbrella insurance, it's your mortgage and rent, it's your bills and utilities, and then it is home improvements. And all of that goes into this category here for home expenses, and it breaks it down to show you a percentage basis of where your money is going. And so this individual realized, okay, hey, I'm spending $42,000 a year, 47% of my expenses on all of these different expenses. So where can I cut back? Can I cut back on business services? Can I cut back on how much I eat out? Can I cut back on, the grocery bill, the personal care, the shopping? And those are all really large ticket items. You may be in this situation and you may think okay, this is futile. This is me. And if this is you in this room, I'm going to show you a few things. Bills and utilities, can we get that down to $175, per month? And if we do that, we're going to start saving some money. And a common question that I get asked all the time is hey, it kind of feels futile to start saving for a home, so I'm just not going to. But if you never start, you're never actually going to get that end goal. I used to work for a managing director who told me, he was hey, Eric, every single day that you're not picking up the phone and cold calling is a day in the future where you're not getting paid. Every single day that you put off budgeting and saving and getting yourself out of a hole or into a savings plan is a day in the future where you're not accomplishing the financial goal that we talked about at the very beginning here. So do you want to start today, or do you want to continue to delay that gratification? Entertainment. Do we need $75 a month in entertainment, or can we get that down to $50? The business services, maybe I get a different acting coach. Maybe I fire my acting coach altogether because I'm not getting any jobs and it's a terrible investment and I shouldn't be working with this person anyways.
I feel that hit really well in the section of this room.
I know. So we're going to drop that down. Hey, maybe I don't need to eat at restaurants 4 times a week, and I don't need to be spending $750 a month eating out. So we're going to drop that down to around $250 because we still want to eat out. And again, that's something that we enjoy doing, but we don't need to do it as much. And maybe I'm shopping at Whole Foods and my budget says I should be shopping at Trader Joe's. Well, that could be the case. And you would be shocked at the difference it costs to shop at Whole Foods versus Trader Joe's. Because one of the things I made Tess do about a year ago is I was like, hey, let's buy the same exact things and let's compare the receipts. And it was about 50% cheaper to shop at Trader Joe's than it was at Whole Foods.
That's a great idea, yeah.
So we get that down. Gift giving, $600 per year. Maybe we can get that down to $300 per year. So we go $25 there. Home improvement, I rent my house. That's my landlord's deal. So I'm not putting anything in there. Personal care. Maybe I don't need the $100 haircut, right? Maybe I can go longer in between cuts. Maybe I can go somewhere else. Maybe I can get a little bit more savvy in terms of the timing that I'm doing this. But $9,000 a year just on personal care. Maybe I don't need the gel manicure. Maybe I can paint my nails, right? And these are the decisions. These are the questions that you're going to have to ask yourself and be ready to face if that's not one of your priorities. So we're going to bump that down to $250. Shopping, let's say, hey, I love shopping, but I'm going to cool it on the Mr. Porter, and I'm going to do a little bit more shopping at Urban Outfitters, right? Travel, $250. Do I really need to be taking these trips? Can we get that down a little bit? And what we're seeing is we've eliminated almost all of this monthly debt. Like we're $1,000 away from our goal and we haven't gotten down to the bottom yet. So I think those are the small rocks. I think the biggest thing is like, okay, hey, maybe at the end of this lease term, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment and it's putting me in debt. And so I need to find a roommate and maybe I get my rent down to like $1,400 because now I'm sharing like a 1-bedroom apartment. Okay. So everything matters. And the reason why I did that last is because I don't want to just take that off the top and it's like, oh, look at how much progress I made. Like we made tiny little adjustments into this budget to get this person into $10,000 of savings every single year. So if you're in here and you're like, okay, I'm $30,000 in debt, like you have a future where you can get out of debt in a year by making some adjustments and changes into your life. And like, this is how you do it. So it all adds up. And this is kind of an example of like how to budget the different categories. And then once these are put in, now we go to the budget tab. And this is where you can go in here and you can change. Maybe you don't pay for auto insurance on a monthly basis, right? So maybe you delete that, but then every other month it costs you $700. So this is what I mean by adjusting the budget based off of your expenses. And this is totally adjustable based off of like how you're spending your money throughout the year. We've got the exact same budget for if you are married, and then there's childcare in here because childcare is like a huge, huge, huge expense. I talk to people that are like legitimately spending anywhere from like $40,000 to $120,000 a year, like on childcare and school tuition and all of that. So if you're in here and you're married, or if you're online, there's a budget in here for childcare for 2 people. If you are 2 people, and not many of us in here are, so just going to breeze through this. Person 1's income and expenses, and then person 2's income and expenses. Now this budget looks pretty good. This was someone that I worked with. They're 1099. This was actually the couple that I worked with that was in like a significant amount of debt, has ended up actually like purchasing a home. They got hit with a massive tax bill at the end of the year because they were only saving 10% for their taxes. And no one wants to get that bill from the IRS. It absolutely, like talking from experience, like it sucks. So one of the things about this budget is that it looked on the surface like they were saving. But really, by the end of the year, they were upside down. Because if you put in 30%, which is like really what you should be at for taxes on this one, you're in the hole by $15K. And they got hit with a bill for $15K, and no one wants a $15,000 bill. No one wants a $5,000 or a $1,000 bill, right? So if you and both of these individuals were 1099. So if you're a 1099, save more on your taxes because you're going to need it. And if you don't need it, at the end of the year, you get a nice little surprise, invest that back into a little nest egg. So that's how to budget. If you have issues with this, come find me. I'm here every Sunday. But that's pretty much, that's what I got. Pretty
Give it up for Eric Roy. Amazing. Was this helpful? So I love just how practical. So if there's a way, I guess everybody already has it, but if there's an accessible way to just get more information, or if people have questions from this point forward, can they email you? Can I throw your email out there, or what's the best way?
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like, this is my community, and I may not know you, but, like, I love you because you're a part of this place that I love. So if I can help you, and if in helping you, all right, can I be real?
Of course.
If in helping you, it unlocks the ability to be generous and to give above and beyond to this place and to buy a seat for someone in 10 years from now who's going to have a life-changing experience with Jesus, who's going to, if your generosity is going to help us stay in this building, if your generosity is going to help us reach people in all the cities that Pastor Irwin and our team want to reach, then, like, I'm all in for that. Like, that would be my ask. So it's like, thank you. Like, my time is finite, but I don't at all mind investing into this community that's invested into me, that I also believe will invest into the future. And that would just be my ask is, if this changes you and if this helps you, like, please be generous.
That's great. Love that. Okay, Why don't we take some time? You have questions? Yes. So Lauren and Jada, I believe. No, not Lauren and Jada. Sorry, Lauren and Amir are gonna go around. We start with Sean.
Also, no weird questions.
Stand up. Yeah.
Okay, question. So, love it. I'm super pumped up. I'm going to go do this. And so, I'm someone who I'll, like, be so pumped up and make this budget, but then, like, maybe, like, in a few months, I'll realize, like, oh, shoot, I'm actually not following this. So first step, obviously, you just laid out. What do you recommend for sticking with this over time and really making that change? Is it, like, at the beginning or the end of the month, then you look back once a month and spend like an hour, go through your account and see, oh, did I hit this? Did I not? Or like what's just how should we keep this going?
Cool. Awesome. Also, born and raised in LA. Go Dodgers. Love it. Two answers. That's a really good question. The first is I almost developed a budgeting app, and then 3 years ago I found one that let me build my own categories. Most budgeting apps are like, you need a budget, YNAB, or every dollar, and they have pre-built ways that they're trying to force you to budget, and it doesn't give you the flexibility to like interchange and swap those out. I found this app. It's called Emma, E-M-M-A. The logo looks like a little gummy bear. It's awesome. I bought a lifetime membership for it. It is exactly what you're looking at on this spreadsheet, but on your phone. Anyone familiar with Dave Ramsey?
Yep.
Yeah. Dave is great, except for the fact that he believes that all debt is bad. That's wrong. But what Dave does really well is like this idea of an envelope system. And the thought is, okay, if you pull out cash, you put it in envelopes. And we've got all these different envelopes. So imagine each one of these rows is an envelope. We're not looking at it anymore. Imagine all those different rows are an envelope. You put the cash in at the beginning of the month, and then however much you have at the end of the month, like you've got a finite amount of cash. You can't outspend the cash that's in these envelopes. That's not practical. Like we live in LA. Like if someone breaks into your car and they take all your cash, like I could not in good conscience like recommend that anyone do that. Emma is a digital way of setting up those buckets and then tracking where your spending is at throughout the month. And they gamify the app. So it actually tricks you into wanting to open up the app to see the progress that you're making. So from a tactile perspective, I would say download Emma, build out the budget the way that you have. You can base it off of this. You can build it your own. And then if you're exceeding your budget for that month, Emma will tell you. And it'll say like, hey, you got to like cool it on your spending because at this rate, you're going to go over your budget. So there's some cool learnings in there. The other thing that you need to do, who's like your best friend in here? Are you close with anyone in here? Or? Okay, cool. I would buddy up with Lucas. And I would say, hey, Lucas, like keep me accountable, right? Because like all things that are difficult to do, that's like what Strava is. If you're running, Strava is an accountability app, right? Strava is like, yes, I'm still doing this thing. And if I'm not, then everybody knows. But find someone that's going to hold you accountable and keep you accountable to your budget. And do those two things and you'll be good.
So is the budget something that you should be kind of looking at? Thinking about, like, I said once a month. It seems like you want to think about it much more than that, like once, like a week, or like you said, like every day almost, like.
At first, you're going to be looking at it a lot, probably multiple times a week as you're spending. As you get into the practice of it, you're going to look at it a lot less because your expenses are going to have stabilized into a pattern or a lifestyle. Because for a lot of us, it'll be like a lifestyle change. Once you get adjusted to the lifestyle, you're going to need to look at the budget less.
So I have a consistent income, like I work a salary job, but I'm working towards opening up my own business. How do I budget for the unknown costs of opening up that business as well as still like staying within my current budget, if that makes sense?
Well, that's awesome. Congrats on the business. I'm curious, what's the business?
I started sewing my own clothes, and then I also want to own like an apparel retail store.
Okay, That's incredible. And I wish you nothing but the best and success. And starting your own business is like insane. My wife started her own business this year, and the amount of work that goes into that, like I have a profound amount of respect for anyone that wants to do that. Like I work for someone. I work for a company, so doing that is huge. And I think it should be celebrated. As to your question, like how do you determine what kind of expenses you need? I think you got to talk to people who have done this before. So you need to get engaged with a network of people who have also started their own stores, and talk to them and just like, hey, can I buy you coffee and can I ask you about your journey? It's like, hey, how'd you find space? Who'd you work with? How much does it cost, right? Is there a difference in the square footage in the Valley versus in LA, and is it worth it to you? And if you do that enough, you're going to surround yourself with individuals who are going to go way beyond just how much you need to budget for. You're going to surround yourself with individuals who have connections and relationships, and are going to try to help you avoid making the mistakes that they may have made along that journey. So I would probably try to find people that you respect, DM them, reach out to them, hit them up, cold call them. It's like, hey, I love what you've built. I love this about what you've built, right? And like make it personal. I'd love to like talk with you and understand a little bit more about how you did that. And then come ready with like, hey, how did you figure out what the expenses were? Do you mind sharing with me about what that looks like? And then from there, you'll have your financial goal, and then your savings goal will just back into what that number is.
Your front row.
Hello. Okay, so I just got married like 6 months ago, so I'm still trying to, thank you. I'm still trying to navigate
6 months ago, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still trying
She
to
went from-
navigate what life is with married life. And eventually down the line, my husband and I want to start a family, and we've been hearing different things where people say, you never are going to be ready for kids, or people are telling us, you should budget for kids, but how far would you say in terms of like mentality, would you say it's like good to consider the money for kids before you're like, I never had the time to have kids anymore?
So is your question about the time for kids, or is it budgeting for kids, or both? Budgeting for kids. Okay, I'll get vulnerable with you. So first, congrats. I had this like dream that when my wife and I, when Tess and I had our first kid, that we would bring her home to a house that we owned. And one of my very close friends, Aaron McManus, told me, he was like, hey, what if the goal isn't about the house, but it's about like the life that you're creating? And are you delaying a future that God has in store for you that like you need to step into? And it wasn't a challenge, but it was like a true question. We had our daughter. We were renting a condo. We did not own a home. And if I could trade the house that we have today for my little girl, Rooney, I would make that trade every single opportunity that I have. And I had this epiphany. We had just closed on our house, and Rooney was in the back seat. And I took a little video. I set up an email address for Rooney. I sent her like little love letters. And I took a video, and I was like, I was crying. And I was like, hey, like, my whole life I wanted to bring you home to a house. Didn't get to do that. But now I have you, and now we have a house, and I would much rather it this way than the other way. So I share that with you just to say, like, I think that that's like a God conversation that you need to have around the timing. And I think that when the time is right, you'll be able to back into the finances. Nice thing is that like God built in like a 10-month timer in there. So like you'll have that. But there's never like a right time to have kids. And like, would we have more money in our bank account if we didn't have kids? Like, oh yeah, are you kidding? Absolutely. These little things are expensive. But our life is full in ways that we had never dreamed we would ever experience.
That's great. Any last questions? Yes. We'll do these last two, and then we'll go.
Koreans unite.
What advice do you have for full-time students? So aren't necessarily have the time to make that, that income, but also have student debt. So how would you say, how would a full-time student budget?
Can I ask you a couple questions about that? Okay. Are you funding your education or are you taking down loans?
Loans.
Okay. And do your loans have restrictions on them for academic purposes only, or are they applicable to cost of living as well?
Both.
Okay, great. Do the loans afford you your basic necessities in life, which is food and housing and books?
Yes and no. So I'm an international student, so the currency is like really high.
Yeah, it's killing you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's also like a cap, so of how much I can take out specifically, and then also how much like the U.S. can provide.
Yep.
So also understanding like Homeland Security would say like, okay, like I can see that you have this amount of money, but the actual money that they say for the tiers is not even close to the living.
Yep.
So what I thought that they said that this would be enough wasn't necessarily enough.
Yes.
So what would you suggest? Like I heard like, I think you said like, not side businesses, but I forget the word that you said for like passive income, I think it was.
Okay.
What would you suggest for full-time students that are trying to navigate their finances?
Yeah. First, like, good on you for betting on yourself, getting an education, coming to a different country, dealing with all of that. That's more than I ever did. So, like, congrats. That's awesome. Your education right now is your job, and you're investing in yourself. Like you're growing that brain, and you're putting things in there that are going to help you generate wealth into the future. The debt that you're securing, that you're taking down today, is helping fuel that into the future. The second part of this, not fun, but it's like you're gonna have to work your tail off. I held 2 jobs to put myself through college. I graduated thankfully with no debt, but I went to like a very cheap school. But you're going to have to supplement in the areas that have caught you off guard. Is it? Oh, okay. You're going to have to supplement in the areas that the funding areas that have caught you off guard. So it's going to be grueling, but there's a reason why college is only 4 years. Okay, good, even better.
That's great. Okay, last question here in the middle.
Hi, Eric. So you mentioned earlier that a good budget is fluid, and that as priorities change, that you can change your budget to match those. So how would you balance having fluidity in your budget while also disciplining yourself to maintain the boundary that you've set?
I love the saying, like, everything within reason, and I think that you will know when you're being ridiculous with your budget and you're changing things around. But I think honestly, I think the question's a little larger than that, or I think it's maybe a little bit different, but it's like, what direction am I moving in my life? And am I ping-ponging around, or am I like laser focused on one general direction? Because I think if you are moving with intention and purpose towards a goal, you may have variances in there, but they're not enough ripples to really throw your whole finances off kilter. So if you feel like you are dancing around your budget and it's like, okay, and I'm not saying that you're doing this at all, but it's like, okay, well, now I've got this $1,000 a month expense because I've decided I'm going to be an actor. And okay, well, no, now I'm going to move that money and I'm going to go do this. It's like, I think those are seismic shifts that'll reflect in your budgeting. And I think it's like, what's the intention and the purpose of your life, and where are you bringing the value towards that?
That's great. Hey, one last time, can we thank Eric Roy? Josue's going to come up in a second, and can you pray for Pastor David and his family. Give us last things as well. But then, too, can you pray for Eric and Tess? Because we want to pray a blessing on not just your family and your relationships, all those things, but we want to pray a blessing on your finances. Because you're somebody that can be trusted with much. You are somebody that has, you're not going to say this, so I'll say it for you. Eric and Tess are some of our most generous people at Mosaic, some of our most faithful givers, that it's been a baseline, and people that have found life and freedom and community in this place, online, and in the room is a direct correlation to your commitment here. So thank you for being somebody who doesn't just talk about it, but you be about it, if that, as they say in the streets. But
because you and I are both so street.
100%.
I'm sorry.
But we need more people like you who take the good gifts that God's put inside of you, and you are a good steward of it. So thank you for being aspirational to so many of us, and showing what it looks like to hustle and work really hard. And I know your time is limited, so thank you for coming here and just pouring in and investing. And so the commitment I would ask of you is put this into practice. Right? I love your intention. I love your honesty too, going, hey, I need the discipline to stick. Like, how do I make this stick? Because that's the key, is not just starting it, but how do you create rhythms in your life? How do you create practices? How can you look at the 12 month, but 12 year as well, but look 12 months from now and go, if you want your life to look different 12 months from now, it begins with decisions like today. And yeah, I just think it's really important. And I think if we as a community, if we as a movement, Mosaic, if we can be the best stewards that the world's ever known, it can increase all the good that we can do together. It can increase all the joy that we get to be a part of. Like, God wants us to enjoy life. I love that you're like, I love money. I'm going to be straight up, right? Like, I don't think God wants us to be afraid of it. I want you to enjoy money so that you can enjoy your life, and then you can create a lot more wealth to do a lot more good in the world. All right? We don't want the only people who are connected to God to be rooted in poverty. We want people who are rooted in Jesus, rooted in faith, to create wealth so that the people of God are the good stewards that make the world a better place. You with me? So let's take the ownership. You may not be a billionaire. Maybe Yet. Love that. But I want to believe there are billionaires in this room. I want to believe there's millionaires in this room. But if we can't learn how to be faithful with what we have now, we're not going to be faithful when God wants to entrust us with much later. So let's do the hard work now, and let's put in the practices and see what we get to create. All right? Josue, this is our last week. Come send us out, and then we'll see you guys next year. Give it up for Josue.
Was that not so awesome? I'm leaving on fire, inspired, motivated, challenged. I learned that Uber Eats does not qualify as cooking at home. I was like, why is Pastor Joe looking at me? But we're ending with a bang. It's so cool. At the end of the year, we get to go through this so that we can go home, implement it, and then start the year off ready and rolling. But we have some cool opportunities for this week. So, opportunity number one, we have a toy drive that we are planning for next Saturday. So, this Sunday, we're going to have a team out there ready to receive all the toys. Please bring a toy for ages 0, so for a little baby, to 12 years old. It's so cool that we get to be a part of the Christmas experiences for families here in LA. So bring a toy, tell a friend, don't do it by yourself. And then this Saturday, what do we have? Wow, come on, CJ. We have the Christmas tree lighting, but we also have our village in the back. And so this is an awesome opportunity for us to support local vendors. We're gonna have people in our community and from this city selling some really cool things. So come. And this is also a great time to invite friends and families. Who has a friend here that sometimes when you're like, hey, let's go to church, they're like, they do the high-pitched thing, they're like, yeah, Or they have, for some reason, they have like a meeting that Sunday morning. But this is an awesome opportunity to just have someone, hey, you want to go listen to some jazz? You want to go buy some cookies, Christmas shopping? You want to go meet some of the most cool people in the world. Let's go. Saturday, 5 p.m. How does that sound? So bring someone. Don't do it alone. I'm going to keep saying that because that's what we do here. We do things together. But before, we're going to pray over Pastor David and for the Roy family. So let's join. God, we thank you for this night. We thank you for the wisdom that we take today, for all the insights. We thank you for allowing us to come together and just become better people. We pray that this room be a room full of the most generative people, but also the most generous people here in this city and all over the world. And we just pray over Eric and Tess Roy and their family. We pray that you just bless them, that we pray for protection over their life. We pray for so much love in that family, in that home, and we pray that your presence just overwhelm them day by day. In this moment, we also pray for the Arcos family. We pray for Pastor David and his parents, that you just put strength in their lives, that you put a peace in their hearts,